Chosen one, anchor your spirit right now and lock your attention on these words. That pressure in your chest, that tiredness behind your eyes, that strange feeling that people are suddenly watching you more closely than before, do not let it pull you into fear. Maybe the last 72 hours have felt unusually intense. People who once ignored you have started asking questions, reacting differently to your boundaries. Maybe you have been sitting alone at 3 in the morning, wondering why your life feels so heavy when something inside you is clearly becoming stronger. You might feel misunderstood, underestimated, quietly tested, but hear this clearly. Your strength is becoming impossible to overlook, and that is exactly why you feel so exposed right now. Before we go further, do something small with me. Tap that like button right now as your own quiet act of agreement with what you are about to hear. Type the word anchored in the comments below, so this message can find the next chosen one sitting in the same silence you were sitting in last night. And if this is your first time here, subscribe now, because what follows will show you why everything in you has been rearranging itself, and you do not want to miss where it ends. You are not becoming powerful because others approve of you. You are becoming powerful because you kept walking forward long after approval disappeared. And this season is reaching its turning point. You chose restraint when you wanted to explode. You chose healing when it was easier to stay bitter. Think back to the moment this week when you wanted to explain yourself or fight back against an accusation, but you stopped instead. You thought your silence made you look weak. It did the opposite. That silence was strength, and that pause protected your future. A specific lie has been whispered over you for a long time. You are too much, too difficult, too late, not strong enough. It wants you to believe that being overlooked means you are insignificant. But a different verdict is written over your life. Those who wait with hope will renew their strength. They will rise on wings like eagles. That is not a promise of effortless living. It is a promise that exhaustion never gets the final word. The attention gathering around you is not proof that some hidden hand controls your destiny. It is a sign that your growth, your boundaries, and your quiet preparation are finally becoming visible. You are not here to be chosen by a crowd or approved by gatekeepers. You are here to become so grounded in purpose that no room full of people can define your worth for you. The heaviness you carry is the weight of transformation. You are becoming unrecognizable to the version of you that once begged to be noticed. Here is what your new strength is really revealing. The greatest evidence of your power is not that a crowd applauds you. It is that pressure has exposed what cannot be bought, manipulated, or broken inside you. Many people mistake your quiet for weakness because they only know how to measure influence through noise. Heaven measures it through endurance and integrity. A tree is never proven by the beauty of its leaves. It is proven by roots that hold steady when the wind finally comes. What has made you difficult to control is not perfection. It is that you have lived through enough to know the difference between an opportunity and a trap, between admiration and access, between being chosen and being used. Not every hand reaching toward you is reaching to help you rise. Some hands only reach to measure what they can take. This is why certain people are drawn to you and yet never fully understand you. They sense something valuable in your presence, but they do not always honor where that value came from. Recognition is never the same thing as reverence. A person can admire your light and still want to control the lamp that holds it. Let us pause here for a moment. If any of this is landing on something real inside you, hit that like button one more time. Then leave the word discernment in the comments, so someone else quietly learning to protect their gift can see it and feel less alone tonight. If you have not subscribed yet, do it now, because the next part names something most people never say out loud. Ask yourself a question that requires more honesty than excitement. Are you being pursued because people recognize your purpose, or because they want access to what your purpose produces? Those are not the same thing. Joseph was not welcomed into the palace because Pharaoh understood the weight of his destiny. He was brought there because his gift solved a problem, and he still had to learn how to serve without surrendering his identity. The palace was a platform. It was never his source. That distinction matters for you too. You can enter rooms without letting those rooms rename you. Not every elevated position is an assignment, and not every impressive invitation is favor. Sometimes the enemy does not attack your weakness at all. It flatters your strength and waits for you to hand over your discernment on your own. A golden cage is still a cage, even when its bars are polished and its door is opened by important people. This is why your next move cannot be driven by a need to prove what you already know God placed inside you. The moment you start performing for the people who once doubted you, they quietly gain control over your pace. Revenge can imitate ambition for a season, but it can never sustain your peace. If every achievement is secretly a message to someone from your past, then your past is still directing your future. Here is where it goes deeper. You are not only being asked to become stronger, you are being asked to become less available to whatever drains that strength. There is a difference between having a large heart and having no boundaries, between forgiveness and continued access. Even Jesus washed the feet of people who watched his miracles, yet he did not entrust himself to every one of them. Compassion never required him to keep handing his keys to people who had already shown they would misuse the house. You can release resentment without reopening the door. Stop explaining every boundary to people committed to misunderstanding it. A boundary is not a punishment. It is stewardship. What God is developing inside you needs protection, not because you are better than anyone, but because a seed cannot stay strong if it is exposed in every season. Beneath the quiet soil, life is gathering its strength. Let your private obedience mature before you submit it to public opinion. You have been calling some seasons rejection when they were actually divine concealment. Moses spent years in the wilderness, not because his life had lost meaning, but because his impulsive strength had to become disciplined authority first. David was anointed long before he was enthroned, and the space between those two moments was filled with caves and quiet formation. The oil was real long before the crown became visible. This means you cannot measure your progress only by what is visible. Sometimes progress is the argument you no longer need to win, the message you no longer send, the familiar chaos you no longer mistake for chemistry. A delayed answer does not always mean a denied promise. Sometimes delay is the mercy that keeps a premature success from becoming permanent damage. There will be moments when people try to pull you back into the version of yourself they could once predict. Do not let someone else's memory of your weakness become a prophecy over your future. The one who knew you in the valley does not automatically understand who you are becoming on the mountain. Once you understand that, you are ready for the harder work, learning to trust your own discernment after being trained for years to doubt it. Many chosen people are confused because they were repeatedly punished for telling the truth about what they sensed. Over time, the voice inside them grew quieter. Not because it stopped speaking, but because they became afraid of the consequences of listening to it. But discernment is not always a dramatic warning. Sometimes it is simply the quiet absence of peace when everything looks attractive on paper. Pay attention to fruit, not promises, not charisma, not titles. Fruit. Does this connection make you more truthful or more performative? Look at what remains after the excitement fades, at how people behave when they are disappointed or denied access. Fruit reveals exactly what flattery tries to conceal. Chosen one, pause with me once more before we move into the final part of this message. Tap that like button again and leave the single word alignment in the comments if any part of this has already started shifting something inside you. That word is not a performance. It is a marker that you are no longer negotiating with the version of yourself that fear built. If you want this message to reach the next person who needs it exactly the way you needed it tonight, take 3 seconds and subscribe before we continue. Stay with me, because this next layer is where many powerful people quietly lose themselves. Your gift can open a door, but your character determines whether you can remain in that room without becoming someone you were never meant to be. Watch what happens in your secret thoughts when people begin praising you. Do you become more grateful or more entitled? Strength without humility becomes another form of bondage. Only this one wears better clothes. A person can escape rejection and still spend their whole life trying to make the people who rejected them regret it. The prison simply changes its decoration, but the prisoner remains bound. If you need a new audience to heal what an old audience wounded, that old audience is still leading you from a distance. And your breakthrough stays incomplete because your heart is still facing backward. David had the opportunity to end Saul's life in that cave. He had the power, the justification, and an audience that would have understood revenge. Yet he refused to become the very thing he was fighting against. That is the strength being required of you now. The strength to rise without carrying hatred into the place you prayed so long to reach. Isolation is not always evidence that you are more spiritually advanced than everyone around you. Sometimes it is a mirror showing you that you have quietly made suspicion your identity. Even after calling down fire from heaven, Elijah became so exhausted he could no longer interpret his own condition clearly, and God did not shame him for that. God fed him and let him rest before giving him a single instruction. You need people who can celebrate your elevation and still tell you the truth. Relationships where your calling does not make you untouchable. The right people will not compete with your light, but they will not worship it either. That kind of relationship is never an interruption to your destiny. It is protection for it. Before your next season, let yourself be corrected without collapsing. A surgeon does not hate the patient because the patient needs an incision. The wound may sting when it is cleaned, but infection cannot heal by pretending the wound was never there. But if you are honest with yourself, there is one more barrier beneath all of this. You may say you want freedom, but part of you still wants to be validated by the very people who once made you feel invisible. That is misplaced loyalty to an old version of your story. A version God is already trying to close. You keep returning mentally to the scene where they betrayed you or simply walked away. You rehearse what you would say if they came back with an apology. But what if that apology never comes? What if the closure you have been waiting for was never meant to be a conversation, but a private decision to stop letting their absence define your value? This is where the real transformation begins. You do not need everyone to agree that you were mistreated in order for restoration to happen. Sometimes the table prepared for you sits in a room your former enemies will never enter, not because you need to hide your blessing, but because their role in your story has simply ended. Some people were assigned to a chapter, never the whole book. And just when you think you have found the root of it all, there is one more layer underneath. The thing that has been blocking you may not be a fear of failure. It may be a fear of what success will require you to release. Success requires you to outgrow the identity built around your struggle, to stop telling your story from the perspective of the person who was wounded and begin living as the person who was healed. Some people stay comfortable being the survivor because survival earns sympathy, but purpose asks for responsibility. Survival says, "I made it through." Purpose asks, "What will you do with the life you preserved?" You were restored, so you could help build a bridge for the people still trying to cross. At some point, the wound must stop being the explanation for every delay. There comes a moment when the door opens, and you must decide whether you are willing to walk without carrying the walls that once defined you. Freedom is the retraining of desire, learning to stop longing for the comforts of bondage simply because the open road ahead requires trust. So begin with what is right in front of you. Keep the promise you made to yourself. Return to the work you abandoned when discouragement became convincing. Pray, then practice. Ask for revelation, then become faithful with what has already been shown to you. The widow in the old story was not told to wait for a miracle out of nowhere. She was told to gather vessels. Her own capacity had to participate in the multiplication. What you call a small act of obedience today may be the exact vessel meant to be filled tomorrow. Your next level will never be sustained by inspiration alone. It requires rhythm, saying no when your emotions want to say yes, protecting your mornings, your attention, your body, and the language you use with yourself in private. Spiritual power is proven by what you consistently honor when nobody is watching, not by how intensely you feel in one dramatic moment. And here is the part you probably did not expect. The thing that has really been blocking you is not the enemy, not your past, and not even the people who hurt you. It is a secret agreement that says you must remain wounded in order to remain powerful. You have unconsciously believed that your pain is the source of your discernment, that your isolation is the source of your uniqueness. But you can keep the wisdom without keeping the wound. The wound may have introduced you to your strength, but it never has to remain its permanent manager. The strongest version of you will not be the most guarded version. It will be the most surrendered version. Not surrendered to people or pressure, but surrendered to truth. The kind of surrender that says, "I no longer need to be feared in order to be respected. I no longer need to be chased in order to feel valuable." Surrender is not weakness. It is the decision to stop spending holy energy defending an identity you have already outgrown. That is when the elite and the impressive lose their ability to hypnotize you. You stop confusing proximity with destiny, and you start asking whether your soul can remain whole inside a room before you enter it. If the answer is no, you will have the courage to walk away, not as someone who lost an opportunity, but as someone who refused to trade their identity for access. The world may call that foolishness. Heaven calls it wisdom. There is a kind of wealth in leaving with your peace still intact. There is a kind of victory that never needs to announce itself, because your conscience is no longer divided. Your life is not being prepared merely for attention. It is being prepared for impact. Attention gathers around what is bright. Impact changes what is broken. This is why your preparation has been so deep. Your capacity to carry what your reach will attract is being widened before your platform ever is. You are being taught how to hold blessing without turning it into an idol, and how to serve people without becoming enslaved to their expectations. Place your hand on your heart with me right now and speak this quietly, even if only in your mind. I release the need to prove my worth to those who could not recognize it. I release every relationship, label, fear, and agreement that has kept me small. I receive wisdom to recognize what is truly aligned and courage to walk away from what only looks impressive. I can be powerful without being proud, discerning without becoming bitter, and visible without being controlled by approval. I trust the timing of my own preparation. I step forward with clean hands, a clear spirit, and a heart fully surrendered to what is true. If this message met you in a place you could not fully explain tonight, do not dismiss that feeling. Before you close this video, do 3 small things for me. Tap that like button one final time. Not for me, but as your own quiet declaration that you are done shrinking. Type the words "I choose alignment" in the comments below, not as a performance, but as a personal marker that you are no longer negotiating with the version of yourself that fear created. And subscribe right now, so the next word finds you exactly when you need it, the same way this one found you tonight. You do not have to chase every powerful room. When you become anchored in truth, the right doors will recognize what you carry, and you will finally recognize which doors were never meant to hold you. Walk forward, chosen one. You are exactly where you need to be, and you are far stronger than you have ever allowed yourself to believe.